Hello friends, welcome to a moist day on Jomtien Beach in Pattaya, Thailand. So you're watching YouTube videos about living in Thailand, maybe vacation, whatever it may be, and everything seems to be all positive. Now of course you're smart enough to know that not everything is great everywhere you go. That's just part of the game. There's pros and cons to every place you visit or choose to live. So what are YouTubers not telling you about Thailand? Rain, rain, go away. That's what all my haters say. Now, if you've watched enough of Tempus TV, you'll know that I love Thailand. Hold on, it's a little dark. I would say wholeheartedly that there's much more positives than there are negatives. And some of the things we're gonna talk about today also have a positive side. But of course, nowhere's perfect, right? So there's a few things that people might not be telling you. And if these things would really bother you, it might be something to consider if you're planning on moving to Thailand. If you're on vacation, you'll probably be all right. Now the first big one is food. Now I'm sure you know that Thai food is amazing. We've heard it over and over again. The availability of not just Thai food, but all different types of food from all over the world in Thailand is great. But of course you've been to restaurants, you've been eating food your entire life. You know that nowhere is perfect. And Thailand is no different. There's places where you can go where the food is not that great. Now I think the lowest par of Thai food is better than a lot of good food in America. But especially when you're talking about street food, things like that, sanitation does come into play. So if you do have somewhat of a sensitive stomach, make sure you're checking everything out and you're making observations to see what you might not want to eat. And there's plenty of places that aren't that good too. Places that are overpriced in my opinion, and places that just aren't serving the same par of food that a lot of places in Thailand are. So I'm sure you're smart enough to know that not all Thai food is the same. There are places that are just not that good. But if you're here long enough, you'll start to figure out the spots. You'll start to be able to compare and find those spots that you really like. But especially if you're planning on eating a lot of street food, sanitation is the big one. Now there's no regulations really like there are in America where they gotta do like food code and all that stuff. So some things I avoid just because I used to work in restaurants and I know certain foods are more prone to foodborne illnesses and things like that. So if you are worried about it, you do have somewhat of a sensitive stomach maybe, do some research, do some Google searches and find out what foods you might want to avoid. Now another one, depending on where you are in Thailand, can be transportation. Now, if you're in places like Bangkok, public transportation is very convenient. There's trains and all kinds of stuff for you to get around, so it's never really gonna be an issue. But especially if you're in Pattaya, it can somewhat be kind of a pain sometimes. It's not always super great, especially if it's like today and it's raining. There might not be any motorbikes, stuff like that. And traffic is definitely a thing. So if it's a holiday weekend or anything like that, transportation can be kind of a bummer. The bot bus is available here in Pattaya, but it is kind of limited on the routes. Now, of course, you can hire them as a taxi and they'll take you wherever, but that's gonna be a little bit more expensive. But if you're just hopping on the route, it can be pretty limited. It'll take you to kind of all the main hubs wherever you need to go. But if you're kind of off the beaten path, maybe you're over on the dark side, something like that, the public transportation can be a little bit iffy at times. And if you do know anything about Thailand, Thailand time is a thing. It's not really like America where a lot of stuff is strictly on schedule. Trains and stuff in Bangkok run pretty well, but it kind of depends. Sometimes you'll be standing down here and it'll take you a while to catch a bot bus, especially on days like today where they're just not making as much money, so a lot of them aren't out driving around. Now, I know a major factor for a lot of people coming to Thailand is obviously the cost of living. Now, of course, for the most part, everything is gonna be cheaper than where you're coming from, especially if you're coming from the West, but there are caveats to this. It is very normal for foreigners to pay higher prices than Thais do. If you're going to like national parks, any of the temples that charge entry, anything like that, or maybe if you're out shopping and they're buying something that doesn't have a price listed, it is very normal for them to charge you more. Unfortunately, this is just part of the game. It's just something you gotta kind of deal with. Even if you are out shopping with a Thai person, maybe you're out with one of your friends, even if you're just with them and they're trying to buy something, generally they're gonna try to charge them more just because they think there's more money involved right there. It's just part of the game, and it's also very normal for foreigners to pay higher prices on condos than most Thais will. Even with that though, things are still gonna be very cheap, but it is just part of the game, so be ready for that when you get here. If you go to, go see some waterfalls or something with one of your Thai friends, they might not even get charged entry while you're gonna get charged. That's just unfortunately part of the game, but like we said, it's still much cheaper than anything you're gonna get in America especially. Just a break real quick, guys. We are coming up so close on 10,000 subs, and I checked recently in the analytics, and unfortunately the majority of viewers recently are not subscribed to the channel. So if you would like to see more and learn more about Thailand, make sure you go down, click like on the video if you're enjoying it. If you're not, you can drop a comment and tell me why you don't like it. It's not gonna hurt my feelings. I always love constructive criticism. At the end of the day, I'm making these videos for you, so if you feel like there's something I could improve, feel free to let me know. If you are enjoying the videos, make sure you click like, click subscribe. Now, a perfect point, given the weather today, is rainy season. Now, I've gone over it in a couple of videos, and like I said in the beginning of this video, there can be some bonuses to it. Rainy season, a lot of things are gonna be cheaper. It's gonna be easy for you to find a condo because there's not as many people here, but unfortunately, there are some negatives to it. If the rain does bother you, you don't like getting wet, obviously that's one point. Another one though that's kind of a bummer is when it's slow season here, some places will close down. People might go home for that time. It's just part of the game if they're not making as much money or it's just costing them too much to keep their restaurant or whatever open. There's gonna be places that are closed, so maybe you came during busy season last year and you wanna come back now. That restaurant you liked might not be open, unfortunately. And things like Bolts, it's gonna be harder to grab motorbike taxis, things like that, or taxis in general if it's raining really bad due to the flooding. A lot of people don't want wet people getting in their cars, which as a car guy, I completely understand. Food ordering, things like that, anything that involves a motorbike is gonna be way less available. That's just part of the game. So there are some negatives to rainy season, but I did cover it in a video talking about the positives as well, so make sure you jump back and check that out if you're thinking about coming at this time of year, because there definitely are some bonuses to it. Now, another one that is sometimes much better than America especially, but also much different in the same sense, is sanitation. Now, it is not abnormal at all to come out here in the morning, especially on the beach, and see people just cleaning up the sidewalks, sweeping up leaves, all that stuff. But unfortunately, sometimes if you get out on like the back roads, especially in Pattaya, you will see public dumping sites where construction people or whatever might just be out there dumping trash and stuff like that. That is kind of a bummer to see because it is so beautiful here. Litter is a very big deal here. It's something that happens quite a bit, unfortunately. So that is something that you see. It is kind of a bummer because like we said, it is very beautiful here. And another one, a lot of like the drainage systems and stuff, especially in Pattaya, are open. So sometimes you might walk by a drain and that boy's got a funky smell. When you first get here, it definitely caught me off guard, but after a while, just like anywhere else, you get used to it. So it kind of goes both ways. Sometimes it's much cleaner than where you come from, but other times it can kind of be a bit of a shock when you see stuff. You might just come around a corner and there'll just be piles and piles of trash. Also, burning trash here is still very popular, unfortunately, but that's just part of the game. That's how a lot of people get rid of it here, so it's just something you're gonna have to get used to. Now, another one that I see quite a bit that is much different than America, unfortunately, is the poverty in Thailand. Now, in general, Thais are very proud people. They're not as materialistic as most Americans especially. It seems to me that the majority of Thais are very proud with what they do have, and they don't have such a high standard of needing a big house, the cars, everything like that. But if you're somewhat of an altruistic person, it can be hard to not, I don't know, feel bad for people and want to help out. And if that's something you have the means to, that's awesome, and I highly suggest you do it. But one thing that's much different in the same sense is you don't see a lot of people like sitting on the street asking for change. If you're from America, California especially, you know that is a big deal, and after a while it can get a bit annoying. That's not really a thing here. Most people that you see that are living on the streets all have a hustle. They're all trying to sell something. They're making jewelry, something. So that is really nice to see. Everybody here has a really good work ethic and they all want to earn their way, which is nice. But just be sure that you're keeping in front of your mind that it is much different here when it comes to materialism, and people are generally very happy with what they have and they appreciate everything much more. So if you see somebody that in your eyes might not be living to the standard that we have of being comfortable in America. It is much different here. You're in a different country. If you want to help out, feel free. Some people will be glad to accept it, and some people might not even want it. So that's definitely something to think about. But there is a big wage gap here, so you will see it. You might go from high-rise condos to places that might be considered slums, but that's just part of the game. And just remember that not everybody is unhappy in that situation, and some people might be as comfortable. That's how they've lived their entire lives, and that's just the normality to them. All right, guys, it is starting to come down pretty good out here, so I'm gonna get out before I destroy my camera. I hope this video gave you a little bit more perspective on what to expect when you get to Thailand. Like we said earlier, if you would like to see more and learn more before you get here, feel free to drop a like on the video, hit a subscribe. That way YouTube knows this is content you wanna see. And as always, thank you guys for tuning in. We'll catch you in the next one.